You look at the number of roads built, 2.5 times, highways. If you talk about vaccines, 1 crore, 82 lakh vaccines have been distributed. If you talk about, can go into the number of Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, urban or rural milaka, 3 crore. Now, fuel, energy is what makes mobility possible. But we have not stopped at that. We've done all kinds of other things. Increased biofuel blending from 1.4% in 2014 to 10% now. The target for 2030 was 20%. We brought the target date of 2030 to 24-25. From 1st April next year, if you have a car, you can go and buy 20% blended fuel from 1st April onwards in some select bunks. So I think on this one, the excise chargeable, the honest God's truth and a reality which you can't change. That's why I tweeted saying that, the truth hurts, but the facts, the comparison is stark. Center reduces excise, BJP states reduce excise, and the difference in petrol prices on the bunk is about 20 rupees, 15 to 20 rupees in each case. Now, first of all, my understanding is the centre would be quite happy to consider bringing petrol and diesel into DST. If I want to just remind you, I think the Kerala High Court, in fact, provided a directive, gave a directive that this issue of petrol and diesel being covered by GST should be put on one of its council meetings. And I think the last meeting of the GST Council, or one before that, took place in Lucknow, where it was taken up. And the fact of the matter is that the states were not willing. Look, the states make a killing. They make a killing out of two things. Petrol, that is petrol and diesel revenue, and alcohol. Therefore, I have always found it remarkable that these are the two areas that they will not. They will go on saying. The rest is narrative. If I spend my way into, let's say, total debt and produce an untenable situation, blame somebody else for it. I mean, Punjab is a case in point. But the point is this kind of politics catches up with you. Earlier, the Delhi government used to say that we are choking because the Punjab government is not stopping the burning of agricultural waste. Now today you have the same government in Delhi and there for one part of the government, that party said ki we want Chandigarh to go to the Haryana, the other part says Chandigarh should go to Punjab. So I said, now be my guest. If all it requires is a discussion amongst yourselves, we should be able to see the last of agricultural waste being burned. But look at what we are doing. We are setting up 5,000 Satat plants, you understand, to produce biogas. But more than that, from August this year, August first time and second time in December, we will have 2 of our second generation biofuel plants producing 90 million litres of ethanol from agricultural waste. Now that is what we are doing. So there is a world of difference between the Modi approach to development and this kind of, freebies distribution. I mean, Punjab is in 2,81,000 crores in debt. When I asked one of their young leaders who came to see me, he admitted to me it's actually 4 lakh crores. So what is your solution to that? More freebies, or do you want to make it productive? To begin with, the current situation is that most of our oil, crude, is imported, 85% plus. Gas, I would say 50%, 52% or so. Now, when you're dependent on imports, clearly you would want to enter into long-term agreements which are beneficial to you. Now, what determines the price of petrol when you dispense? First of all, the price of crude internationally. That varies from day to day. You add to that the cost of freight. You add to that the cost of insurance. You add to that dealer's commission. And then you go into a refinery and, in all these things. Now, because of where we are situated geographically, close to the Gulf countries like the UAE, Saudi Arabia, Iran, which they have a lot of oil. They have 35 million barrels sitting on a platform ready to be sold. Because you're situated there, you normally tend to source your stuff from there. But we have energy relationship very active with Russia also. We made a investment in Sakhalin 1 when Vajpayee ji was the government. That's an investment which is done very well. We buy crude from them, but our total imports up to 31st March of 2022, I think, was not more than 0.2%. Are we open to buying? Yes, if the terms are right, absolutely. We have to look after our interests as a country. We have to look after the interests of our consumer. And therefore, if stable arrangements, somebody turned around and said, oh, but you bought just 15 million barrels. I mean, again, this is a statement, I think, made out of ignorance. Our daily consumption is 5 million barrels. So if somebody in the private sector in India bought 15 million barrels, it only adds up to 3 days' supply. 6 crore people go to a petrol pump every morning, every day, during morning to evening, to tank up. That's 60 million people. More than all this, our per capita consumption just now is 1/3 of the global average. And I've been saying our per capita consumption is increasing. We will come as this global will be plateaued. We'll be growing faster than the global, because India is a country where the development imperative, whether it's construction, urban sector, providing goods and services through the urban and rural sector, infrastructure development, our budgetary provisioning for capital expenditure is 7.5 lakh crores. And we are willing to give the states 1 lakh crores interest-free for a period of 50 years. I mean, this is the reality of India. I mean, that will all require energy. But we are determined to make strides for domestic exploration and production. We are determined to increase the area, a sedimentary basin. We have 3.5 million square kilometers. We're only doing about 7-8%. We're going to take it to 15, 20 and 30%.
Are we concerned with the sanctions that the US has really put in?
Sanctions, this is not an oil issue. This is not an energy issue, because as far as I know, the energy entities are not a sanction. But, sanctions anywhere disrupt supply lines. I mean, even in COVID, when you had a supply line. So what you end up dealing with is a situation that Atmanirbharta. So the Atmanirbharta means that you have to now start, it's a growing economy. It's the fastest growing. I made a mistake in an interview with one of your colleagues to call it a fastest growing economy in its class. No, it's a fastest growing economy per se, if you look at all the figures in the world. Now, that will require energy. And we will buy from wherever we can get at the most favorable terms. And it's not as if the oil is not available. I mean, 3 things happened. There was an underinvestment because of all this talk about transition to green energy. There was a second problem, is that when people got excited with that, maybe some eyes saw some of the investments. That's part of the first. Second one, the amount of oil, crude being put into the market by OPEC is less than the demand. We were told that it corrected by February. I haven't seen it happening. It may not happen. But third one, which is more important, if people keep facing this, the number of electric cars will increase, the number of biofuel blended cars will increase, people will move to the transition faster than if you're thinking of moving by 2032, you may do it by 2028. It's very simple. If you look at the fuel prices, increases will take place, have taken place. My starting point is 1973. And I think some of this analysis, regrettably, is politically motivated. I looked at the figures from 1973 to 1980, 80 to 87, 87 to 94, 94 to so on. And the increase in the Modi period is the lowest. It's 30%. It's not 80%. And that 30%, as I said, is due to factors other than that. But meanwhile, basic salaries have gone up. I started my career in the Delhi University on a salary of 400 rupees. What is the starting salary for a lecturer today? What would it be? 40,000, 50,000, 1 lakh. From kahan 400 rupees and kahan 1 lakh, number one. When I joined the Foreign Service and I was in Mussoorie, my wife and I were there, with retrospective effect, the salary of lecturers went up from 400 to 700. So I got 3 into 12, 3,600 rupees as arrears that I pay my, bills at the local dhaba. Today, you started many times that look at what all the government gives you free. If you are in that EWS, etc., you get a house, you get Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, you get Ujjwala, you get free rations. So I think this argument, left to myself, I would like to make energy totally free. Left to myself. But, that is one way. I mean, you have this model of this political startup. हम बसेस को फ्री कर देंगे. अरे मैंने डिसाइड 11,000 बसेस होती थी, 3,000 रह गए. वो 3,000 में से भी 1,500 आर नॉट फंक्शनल. So they wanted to make, what is it called, the Delhi Metro, completely free. Look what happened. Look what happened. If I had agreed to them, Delhi Metro, which has 65 lakh riders a day, which we are going slowly back to that, would also start looking like DTC. So there is either responsible governance or there is irresponsible governance.